in La Cash family. Here we are, today's global gathering. Just some things to consider, some information we'll be talking about in this channel, and this information that we'll be discussing and disclosing, just trying to bring together the collective family. We'll be talking about theology, history, words, law, religion, health. We'll be talking about many different topics that deal with our community and information we need to know, must know, or maybe just to consider as we move about, just to be able to better communicate with our neighbors, our friends, our family, just to be able to have a better glow, to be able to look forward to tomorrow where we're not all maybe too panicked or too intense or stressed about things. This is a new beginning, a new start. We do want to say a blessing and a thanks to the last year and this new coming year, as we head into what is now the Commission or Egyptian New Year, as they would say, Happy New Year, in the sense of happy being the Nile River from the Nile Valley. So to all our ancestors and family around the world, and turn on some good candles and fire to be able to draw in the ancestors, because only with their permission first and foremost are we allowed to speak or to be able to communicate this information from the heart. So we'll start first with a little meditation. May this information and knowledge that we may be seeking be able to find itself into the light in our hearts, and fill that light in our heart and fill it more with abundance and love every day, and understanding, overstanding, understanding, so that we can grow together and more appreciative of every day and every opportunity we have as we live. So as we continue with today's teachings and lessons and things to consider, we'll be talking about a couple of different things. One of the things in particular we'll be speaking about today is etymology. Now, etymology is a very interesting topic we'll be considering today, because it is one of the topics that lays the foundation to our communication, information, and knowledge. And what I mean by information and knowledge is basically how etymology and words basically are the foundation to our understanding when we read and learn different things that we might find interesting or maybe pique our curiosity. Well, as we see here in etymology, it's the study of the words in which the meanings and the thoughts of history and how it's changed through history, which has a very big importance, because sometimes our history, as they say, is written by the winner. So sometimes that might not be to the best interest of all parties, but at the same time, you know, they're the victors, so we can't try to say that they're not trying to seek what's best for them. So we'll be discussing a lot of different ways that has had an impact on our language and the social dynamics that play into our day-to-day and this day that we have. So as we see with etymology, how it describes different parts of our root origin, there's a video I stumbled upon, and respect to all these teachers that I learned from, so I'll be disclosing these videos, and I'll try to provide a link in the comments, excuse me, and also maybe in the credits at the bottom. So this video is a lady, Mrs. Africa. She'll be discussing a few things today about etymology and how in the way that we use it, sometimes it might not be bringing about the best outcome that we might be seeking in the sense that how we want to attract what we put out. So sometimes we want to put out very positive energy, wake up in the morning, yes, this be the best, the most awesome, this is going to be my day, my week, my month, my year, you know, I'm going to be on it all the time, you know. So sometimes some of the words we might be using might not be denoting what we want to say. It might be more of connoting, which these two words we will analyze in further episodes. But in specific, we'll see how she says a saying that we might say all the time, and she's just gonna make us see it in a different light, and it'll play into a little bit more of what we'll be discussing today. So let's see what she has to say.
So what do I mean by the secret spells of the English language? Well, let me share with you what I call our premier life sentence. And it goes something like this. We awake each morning and go off during the weekdays to earn the living at various jobs and undertakings until we come to the weekend. And this seems perfectly acceptable to most people. However, more people die between 6 and 9 on a Monday morning than any other time of the week. So I do what I call a translation of the English language, and I spell that T-R-A-N-C-E with the idea that words cast spells. So when you translate that life sentence, you remember that awake is a funeral party for the dead. Mourning is the state you're in when you attend a wake. And you would have to be in a weekdays to earn the living, since urns are for the ashes of the dead. We call our jobs undertakings. Job itself is a Hebrew word for persecuted. And what we get at the end of this perverse bargain with life is the weak end of the deal, as we become progressively weakened ourselves. And so our most prevalent greeting to each other is hello, the reverse of which is, oh, hell. And at first, I suspected the hands of collusion entangling the language to foster illusion. And I think it's quite true that a culture's theology has a great deal to do with the word's etymology and how it evolves over time to combine incompatible meanings that may undermine the original thoughts it was meant to define. But now, I don't think it's planned, for the thing that I've found is that like concepts can gravitate toward the same sound and vibrate at the rate that our thoughts designate. Because words are electromagnetic vibrations whose fine alphabetic tintinnabulations can take on the tint of our true expectations, which they then imprint on our metal of mind, causing sounds to adhere when they're of the same kind.
And that was Mrs. Africa. Thanks again. She provided that information. I'll provide that link.
So what do I mean by...
the big thing, as she was saying on that information, is the word. And as we can see right here is logos. Which, as we can see, it says it's the divine word, considered in second person to Greek, to Christianity in the Trinity. From the Greek logos, word, speech, a statement or discourse that allows computation, accounts for all reasons. And as we look further, it says to collect or gather. And as we go further, we see decalogue, apologue, and trialogue, and logograph, which are further words that we can look up. But as we see the logos in the word, as we're seeing, has a bigger meaning, especially when we start looking at that logos is almost denoting the aspect of when creation was breathed into, or the first words were spoken to denote the things. So as we look into this topic, we'll be starting to see on how the words we use, as Miss Africa said, actually sometimes aren't meaning the things we want them to mean. And we might be waking up like, man, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna make the week's days, you know, my salary, my currency, which are a lot of these words when we analyze actually don't denote maybe things of value we're actually seeking to get the things we might want. One of these words that we'll be analyzing, as we saw, was the etymology, which is the study of speaking, or the origin of words, or how it has been changed through time, or noted, or in our aspects we're wanting to know the denotion or the original word, as we see here with the word that we might use a lot today in our society. We might hear a lot, we might create a lot of issues maybe that we might be speaking of, and trying to deal with the scholarship and removing the emotion from it, we can then be able to not maybe seek vengeance or anger, but to seek to have dialogue before we seek to defend ourselves, which we will also speak on defending ourselves, because that is also an important topic. But as we see here in black, which is an adjective, really does not denote a person, which is a noun. This is an adjective which is usually used to describe. And as we look into the details, this is one of the things that we will be discussing in our show and in our episodes, is how things sometimes are flipped around to mean different things, and maybe some people are playing a switcheroo or changing positions with other people because it is a better political position or financial position or just a better position of power. As we see here on black and we look further down, we see that there's gleam, shine, burn, scorch, fire. And as if you look further on the first sentence in the second paragraph, you see that it also means pale. Which is very interesting, because today and age we think black means the darkest color, but we see that from its original origin, from where it comes from, in older Germanic or older English, as we can see here, which is the BLC aspect of it, it means pale, which is very interesting. And we will also discuss further in our episodes on how this word again has been switched around and originally meant pale but now means black, and we'll see why that switcheroo might have taken place or happened and how it's affected different things. We'll also see here the word Latin, which maybe a lot of people might describe themselves as, thinking that we're actually denoting ourselves to a culture and community, which really that has nationalities. But we can see right here Latin is also an adjective, which is really denoting more to people that spoke Latin languages. Another word that we might use today in our society is Hispanic, which, as we can see again, is an adjective denoting to people that spoke more of a Hispanic or were from the Iberian Peninsula, or from a Spanish descent. Here that we'll be analyzing a lot is more, which is to fasten, to locate, to cable, which really means a navigator. But we'll start to look into the dynamics on how that word is maybe a word that our ancestors fell under last, that actually held some political strength and value as a global family of Aboriginal adult original peoples of the earth. And we will also discuss different on how grammar basically also denotes grimoire. And grimoire comes to glamour, which means to kind of put on a spell with sex. Or when you look into grimoire and grammar, it starts dealing more with spells and spelling, and those words start dealing more with kind of invoking or bringing about, or what we would kind of consider almost magic. See how these spells play into different aspects in our society that rule different things, from our political system and government. And here we see grammar, as we were saying, grimoire, and all of this you can go ahead and look up online on etymology, spelling. And how all these different words actually mean a lot more than we might think, which play into a bigger aspect of natural law, which we'll look at quickly. Now, one big word that I wanted to discuss is God, which I know sometimes we mean or think that it means a certain thing. We not to denote or anything the Most High or the Supreme Being, Mahat, Hunav Ku, you know, our ancestors spoke of many, but in specific we could look at that God actually means to invoke or call upon. Or to speak about. So then we start seeing that that has a big aspect for us to start considering the words that we use and we call out about, especially when we're chanting and screaming out loud. Now, natural law is one of those things that I say that law sometimes allows for maybe someone to be able to do something that would seem illegal, but because of certain things that have played out because of the grammar or words, logos, the meanings of these words, they might have already informed us of these bad doings, and because they did, they no longer maybe inherit its natural law. Punishment, but at the same time, it's not to say that these can't be ratified and justified. So we will see how natural law actually embeds a lot of our aspects of live in nature, and by living in nature we can't escape its natural laws and its ruling of us. So natural law is very important because it will decide between the light and dark, but it's good to know all or both sides of this to become better informed. And these are just some things to consider. As we will go on with further episodes, we will be looking at different things. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and these are just some things for y'all to consider so we can go ahead and grow together, our global family and community, more unified. And tune in for our next episode as we will discuss further on etymology, history, and different topics from theology and different things that maybe we might need to consider as we move about in this dynamic society and future we're moving ourselves into. Love and blessings, as I said, and nothing but positivity and confidence your way.